better.
There we go. Here we are, episode 119 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, this is our opportunity to grow, scale, and build our junk removal dreams. So whether you are in junk removal, hauling, landscaping, cleaning, hell, remodeling, whatever you're into, this is the place to come to learn about how your fellow home service professionals get it done week in and week out. As always, I'm your host, Andy Weins, and I'm joined this week by a friend, former employee, business partner, all of the above. I think I slept in her basement one time. Carol Vaillancourt, who has recently exited the junk removal industry, is going to come and share her knowledge and wisdom of the 7 years? 7 years? 7 years in junk removal, years in marketing, years in the Army. There you go. There's your fucking intro. Carol, take it away.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Like Andy said, it's been 7 years since I got involved in junk removal, thanks to Andy. So I don't know if I should thank him or not. You know, some days I curse his name, but, you know, most of the days it was good. So what was it? 2018, I think we started out in Madison. And we opened up the Madison.
You and I met in 2017.
Right. At the Veterans Chamber of Commerce.
Which I was kicked out of eventually. I was on and now I'm back. Full send. Yeah. They called me up. They called me up like 6-8 months ago and they're like, hey, you used to be part of the Veterans Chamber. Now you're not. What happened? I go, I had an opinion. Other people didn't like it. So for all of our listeners out there, I definitely had the like end of the earth. Like, what the fuck did I do in business to get kicked out of a chamber? And then turns out, it's a badge of honor. So here we are, get kicked out of a chamber. No big deal. Anyhow.
You know, I feel like that's something only you could do, but
I've been kicked out. I've been kicked out of 2 actually. So
like I said, it's impressive.
Like, okay, there's that old shitty joke. Like I would never be part of an organization that would have me as a member, and it's like, well, here we are. I got kicked out of the Veterans Chamber, and then I also got kicked out of the Contractors Networking Association, the CNA, Contractors Network Association, which was like a monthly go to BW3s and eat wings and do businessy type stuff. And it was like hosted by a guy from Action Coach who was like action coachy oriented. Also, BW3s, let's talk about this. Culturally, a lot of people don't call it BW3s, right? It's Buffalo Wild Wings or B-dubs. I've always called it BW3s.
I think that might be a Wisconsin thing.
Because it used to be Buffalo Wings, Rex, and Wraps. That's where the 3 comes from. A lot of people don't know that. They call it BW3s and they don't know why.
Yeah. I don't think anyone else calls it that outside of Wisconsin. There's a lot of stuff that, if you get out of Wisconsin, people don't know what you're talking about. But anyhow,
that's fine. I thought everyone called it BW3s, and then yes, in the military, as I've traveled, people are like, B-dubs. I'm like, yeah, BW3s, right? And I never knew what it was 3 for. I was like, I don't know, it's BW3s. I don't know why it's 3.
Yeah. So,
I googled that years ago. It's not like I was like this wealth of fucking Jeopardy knowledge. I was like, I don't know why I call it BW3s. Like, why do I call it BW3s? And then Wikipedia for the fucking win. Here we go.
I didn't even know people went there anymore. I'll be honest. So.
Wikipedia or
B-dubs? No. Oh yeah, B-dubs. Correct. Haven't been there in years.
It's terrible. Also, actually, shout out. I'm gonna look this place up. Last week I was in. Taylor just put Wally World. Also, I didn't know what Wally World.
I didn't know that either. Somebody said they went to Wally World for something. I'm like, what the F is a Wally World?
Yep.
Walmart.
Yeah, that's what it was. When I was at so this is like 20 years ago, I was at basic training. And we had our like 4-hour pass or our overnight pass, I think, between basic and AIT. And they're like, yeah, you have your overnight pass. Like you can go to Wally World. And I was like, oh, what is this magical place? And then it's Walmart. And
still kind of magical at the end of basic.
It is. There we go.
Let's be
real.
The
other thing is a Walmart outside of basic training land, because that's what they call Fort Leonard Wood. It feels like you're still in the military because I was scared shitless walking around like, oh, I'm gonna get yelled at for something. Like I obviously I'm doing something wrong.
To be fair, when you leave, there's nothing else there, right? I mean, you're going to Walmart and everybody
strip clubs, pawn shops, car dealerships, Wally World. Like Wally World, there's the least chance of getting in trouble.
Yeah, if you go to Fort Leonard Wood now, they have this tap room that has like over 100 beers on tap. So it is actually pretty cool. That's the
Okay,
only thing.
okay.
The only thing I know about that. But anyhow, so let's go back. What 2017? So you were
2017.
yep. So
Yes.
you were working. Owned the J Dog, and
Yep.
you wanted to expand, and so somehow I got roped into this, and it
Well,
was
hold
it
on. I
was
mean, let's tell the origin story. You were working for you had your own marketing company.
Yep. So I had been working full time for the Army in
Yes.
2017. And
Fair.
then I decided to leave that. I had a daughter and it was taking up way too much time. And I just didn't really want to do full time Army anymore. Still in the Army, still love the part time Army. But anyhow,
Yep.
so left that, was doing my own thing, marketing stuff, and kind of, it's okay. I get a little bored. I mean, working by myself, I guess. But I'm also so anyhow, you started talking to me about the J Dog thing, and at first I one of the funniest things I'll never forget that I asked you, and I still can't believe to this day that I said it, knowing who I am and that I've lived my whole life in the Army and all that. But I don't know if you remember this question. I said, "Do women do this work?" And you were like, "Yeah," and you told me about Jen in California and
Oh
somebody else, and I was like, "Okay, well, I don't know about that," but so I came to your warehouse, right?
yeah. Yep.
And I met all the guys, and I'm not. I don't know if I want to. I don't know if we should name names, but your old guy that was working in the warehouse, the
Steve.
Marine, Steve.
Steve
He
Bavier.
won my. Yep, he won my heart. He pulled out his little rumpled up paper out of his pocket and showed me his list of stuff he was collecting for the people that he was living with at the VA shelter, and it's like a
Yep.
microwave, toaster oven, and
Yep.
I was like, he sold me. I'm like, oh, you know what? That's pretty cool.
Heartstrings.
Yeah, heartstrings. He
Yeah,
got me.
those are the good old days, if you will.
Yeah, and that group of guys, they were what I call it, the land of misfit toys.
Oh my God, junk removal is the land of misfits. Well,
yeah.
And I have an ex. Whenever we started dating, she would always ask me, because this was way before the podcast, and I still have people reaching out to me, because like when we were part of the franchise together, I was one of the more influential people, and so people would reach out to me weekly or shit. Fucking some guys were daily, multiple times a week at least, asking me advice, how to do this, how to do that, and my ex would always say like, why do people get into junk removal? And she wasn't being facetious. She wasn't being mean.
Question.
She just like, why? Like, because at first I took it like, well, what the fuck is that? She's like, no, I'm genuinely curious. Like, I have zero desire. Like, I put my trash in the bin and we put it out, and then once a week I bring it in, and like, I don't want to take shit to Goodwill, right? And so that's always a great question. It's like, well, why are you doing this? I had this guy hit me up this morning. He goes, hey, I'm looking for some advice. And I go, well, what's the question? Right? Like, he didn't have a very good question. And then my question was, well, what do you do full time? And why are you doing junk removal? Like, you're looking for advice. I got to know where your starting point is. Like,
yeah, 100%. Well, for me, I was looking for something different to do, and it was kind of a natural fit. I'm a logistics officer in the Army, and I thought, I can run a bunch of trucks across a desert or put together a 170 vehicle convoy. I can probably manage a few trucks picking up junk around town, right?
Yeah.
No big deal. So, it was interesting to me. Definitely have an entrepreneurial background. So that didn't scare me at all. And, I guess it sounded like an interesting opportunity. So, and people are always, a lot of people, I'm sure people say this to you, like, oh, it must be so great getting all the junk. Like, I hate junk. I'm like, no, I hate the junk. Like, yes, you do find cool treasures, right? Like every now and then, right? For sure.
Yeah.
But that's, I don't know, going through all that junk, it's like overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I loved, one of the things I loved donating the stuff to the veterans organizations in Madison. We had that warehouse, and I had the guys come through that were, rehoming homeless veterans, and I just pick out whatever you want, and I loved that. That part of it was cool. I loved employing people. I had at one point, I think 7 soldiers from my National Guard unit working for me. I loved that. So, it was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot, obviously, working for you. And you were obviously, like you said, you were kind of at the top of your game there and the top of the J-Dog franchise as far as successful owners go. So, I wanted to move out east or back east, as you guys say out there in Wisconsin. And so it gave me an opportunity to come out to Maryland, and where I bought my own franchise. For better or worse, I bought into the franchise, and that was in 2019, right before. This was the bad timing, right before the pandemic, right? We officially opened in November 2019, had moved across the country, sold 2 houses in Madison. My husband restarted his business. He's a home inspector from scratch. So here we were in the middle of, a new house, new everything. And the pandemic happened in 2020 and the world shut down. And I definitely was like, I think we just failed before we even got started, right? Like everything closed.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that was like a quick 3 months. But lo and behold, the pandemic was great for buying and selling homes. Everything kicked right back in, especially in our area. People were leaving the cities in droves, coming to the beach where they could work from home and taking off, they're like just leaving their jobs and coming here. And so our real estate market blew up, which was great for both junk removal and for home inspections. So we were able to sustain ourselves through that pandemic. We expanded a little bit. My market's very small here I'm in Ocean City, Maryland. Our total population.
Touristy town and geographically restricted.
Geographically restricted. Our year-round population in Worcester County is only 50,000. Mm-hmm. So, I came from Madison, greater Madison area. It was, 1 million. I think Madison's 500,000 or something like that. Yep. So very small population. So I had to really kind of get creative on how we were going to generate enough revenue to grow the business and sustain the business. So right away off the bat, I went right into dumpster rentals in conjunction with the junk removal. It was really great for a couple of reasons. First, having those dumpsters made it a lot faster and more efficient for us to be able to sort and do multi-load jobs quickly. We could park, I think some jobs we'd have 5 dumpsters sitting in a driveway, full house clean out, 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house, and we're just sorting it out, and we could do that in a day. Whereas if we had just started out with like one truck and trailer or something like that, that job would have taken a week, right? Yeah. So that was nice. And then also the additional stream of revenue. We could rent the dumpsters out and do the junk removal. And then in addition to that, we very quickly got into the demolition. We did some crazy demolition. We did the sheds and the decks and stuff like that, but we also did full mobile homes. One of our first mobile home jobs wasn't really a mobile home. It was like 2 campers that this poor woman, she let a homeless guy park his camper in her backyard. Don't ever do this. P.S. I mean, I know you want to do nice things for people, but don't ever do this.
First of all, I don't want to do nice things. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, sounds terrible. Yeah. So he parks his camper and then invites his friends to park their camper. And
sure.
He dies, of course.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's camper life.
As people do. And
as one does.
Yeah, as one does. He dies. I don't know. Military, dark humor. So he dies. And they hire us to demolish these trailers. And we just rented like a thumb bucket excavator thing from Sunbeam, went in there, demolished these trailers, tore it up. It was great, but that was one of our more disgusting jobs. I'm talking, I don't know why he peed in bottles.
Convenient. We peed in bottles in Iraq. I mean, why walk and just pee in a bottle? Well,
why did you just pee in the yard? I don't know. Anyhow.
Iraq was full of IEDs. Iraq.
Right. That's a different scenario. I'm talking about like the backyard, Snow Hill, Maryland.
I pee in my backyard all the time. There's times I'm in my house, like at night walking around. I was like, I gotta pee. I will go out my back door. So I'm like, I don't have to aim. Right? It's dark out. I don't give a shit.
Right.
Well, pee in your backyard like an adult.
Yeah, so we got into the demolition with that, and we did mobile homes. We did everything pretty much up to mobile homes, small garages, things like that. So we really tried to expand our revenue with multi services just because of the small area we're in. Really hate moving. I don't do moving. Every time I tried to do moving, you know how it goes.
Oh yeah,
sideways. freaking
Oh, yeah.
sideways. Somebody's breaking something. Employees will be employees. They're going to break shit. And,
100%.
I always tell people they want me to move something nice. I'm like, we can move junk. And if you don't ever want to see it again, we'll move it.
Yeah.
But beyond that, forget about it.
People are like, oh, you guys are great. I'm like, yeah, they're great at what they do.
Correct.
If I show up to donation facilities, a scratch on a dresser, there's a scratch on the dresser, right? What are we doing?
Right. So one of our, okay, so you know how it goes, right? Slow season. Yep. Somebody calls, job you don't normally do, and you're like, I know you're good. You're good at saying no, but every now and then.
Oh my God. No,
okay,
I'm like,
you're right.
No. I'm like, it's a slow week. Like, we want to move gravel. Yeah, I'm sure we can figure out how to move gravel. I have 8 years of getting my fucking ass handed to me. I have been disciplined and beaten into compliance. Well, because I still want to say yes to everybody. I know. My discipline is shit.
Somebody asked us. Somebody asked us to. I don't even know if I should talk about this publicly, but I don't fucking care. Whatever. So somebody asked us to organize her shed.
What's the problem with that? Okay.
Okay, you ready? Okay. You got to be ready for this. Okay.
Is there raccoons in there?
I suck. Okay. She's a professional. Are you ready? Mermaid. It's a profession. Okay. So she's a professional mermaid. Professional mermaids have a shed full of what? Mermaid tails.
Mermaid tails. Yeah. My good friend Macy Estrada. She's a wrestler. She has a shed full of all of her wrestling outfits. Yeah.
Well, I hope she stores them better than this mermaid did. So anyhow,
I think it's slightly different. Yeah.
A hobby horse. Yeah, that's cool too. Taylor's talking about the hobby horse. My daughter's into hobby horsing, of course. Anyhow, so she's got a shed full of mermaid tails, and I'm not a good organizer, and I knew none of my employees would be good at it, right? So you know who's really good at organizing shit? Paul. So I wrote Paul in. I'm like, hey man, Paul was our oh shit guy. I just call it like our oh shit guy. I've
been on jobs with Paul. Let's just full send. I've been on yes. The two oh shit guys.
Said we were gonna get shirts that said "Better call Paul." So
better call Paul.
Better call Paul. So we called Paul, and I said, "Can you go organize the mermaid shed? Take a couple hours." Yeah, no problem. I took. Thank God for this. Take a shit ton of before and after pictures, right? So I took a shit ton of before pictures of this shed, mostly because we hadn't done a lot of it, and I was like, if it goes okay, maybe we'll get into it. So anyhow, organize the shed. A little while later, you're not going to believe this. I get a letter in the mail from my insurance company trying to collect $3,500 or $3,800 or some shit for a broken mermaid tail. Okay, so she's claiming Paul broke a mermaid tail. And so I'm like, hey, Paul, did you break a mermaid tail? He's like, no, there was a broken mermaid tail in there. I just put it in the bin and filed it, right? Organized it. I'm like, did you mention to Tasha that the mermaid tail was broken? No, I did not mention it to her. Well, maybe you should have at least mentioned it to her. I guess she didn't know her tail was broken, right? Well, lo and behold, I go back and look at my before pictures, and there's a very clear picture of that broken tail in the before pictures. So I send that all off to the insurance company and all that, and it's put to bed. But man, $3,800 for a mermaid tail, dude.
Who knew? I didn't know professional mermaids had such high overhead.
Had no idea. But if you had a $3,800 mermaid tail, would you crumple it up in the bottom of your moldy old shed?
Well, I wouldn't trust first of all, I wouldn't do that. Second of all, I wouldn't have random junk removal people move it, right? There's also we partner with professional organizers all the time. So my first company was called Clutter Busters, and I did I hung the fucking shelving systems and stuff in garages. So I full know professional organizing. I know professional organizing so well that I recently hired a professional organizer to fix my house because I've never done it. Right. Can you go buy the command strip hook things to fucking because I'm like, I don't know, throw the broom in the closet. Right. So they churched it up for me. It looks nice. Yeah. I learned all about the fucking at-home store shit that I didn't need to fucking learn. Right.
Oh, the Container Store? You got to go there.
No, fuck that. That place. That place gives me the heebie-jeebies. Here's why. I'm a frugal individual.
Somebody there for you.
I don't want to do that. If I don't have a bin or a bucket in my warehouse that I need, I'll use a bigger one or a smaller one. I'm looking right now. I got milk crates in my office. Actually, Actually, the designer, the organizer designer lady, she came and did a tour of my warehouse, and she saw my office, and she's like, "You have way too much stuff." Actually, Taylor, I'm gonna have Taylor come in. We've never done like.
I already know you have too much stuff. Like that's fair. I'm sure she was right.
And I'm anti. I know. So we're gonna Taylor put the overhead lights on, and I want you best you can without breaking the camera, because the camera's on a cord. Because whatever. Taylor's gonna give maybe a wide angle. All right, whatever. Taylor's gonna give an idea. So I also do not like stuff. I don't know why I'm using my hands right now. All right. So can you go back farther?
Wow.
I'm like trying to direct him and not be in the shot. I don't know where the cords can go. It's not like anyone can see me. I got my headphones on. I have limited range. All right, here we go. We are.
Might have to talk louder.
I can talk fine. Oh yeah, I forgot my mic. I knew I was hooked up to this for a reason. All right, so here we go. We will give a high level overview. Can you go back farther? A little wider? I don't know.
Told Andy to talk louder. That's funny.
Tell Andy to talk louder. Okay, so this is my wall. So the wall behind me is the greats, right? So we got Milwaukee, greatest city in America, no big deal. Before that, Marilyn Monroe, right? Came off a job. I've got everything here came off a job. Vince Lombardi, greatest coach of all time, no big deal. Keep panning. Another Vince Lombardi, random Army pictures. I've always loved this picture of the flag. I don't know why. It's like, whatever. Also above here, right up here, right? Yeah. So this is right above my head. This way. My brain don't work. All right. So that says success is 99% failure. I got that out of so we did a job. We did a job for $15,000 back in the day. In hindsight, it was a $50,000 job. Like it was, it took us 3 weeks. We're like, dude, we're going to be rich with $15,000. So when people are like, oh, I underestimated a job, I'm like, cool story, bro. All right, keep going wider. And then we have over here, we got Brett Favre, greatest football player of all time. Jordan, no big deal. Also pan up a little bit. The no dumping, right? Because like, within our industry, Balboa, greatest sports figure of all time, no big deal. And then I grind, right? Everyone knows me. I'm a fucking grinder. And someone had that license plate and I got it. And then that's a random mask my dad gave me. So like my office, see if you can shoot that corner too. Well, you got C3PO. That was my nickname in or the call sign in Iraq, C3PO. Because I'm tall and skinny. I talk with my hands. I have a collection of swords because once you have one sword, you got to have them all. Right?
That's true.
And then I have my like Pap Schlitz random Zelda corner. My point is, and also I have put the tailgate of the Chevy. I have a tailgate to a Chevy because again, more Jordan. So when I look up on my camera, that's what I see. I see Jordan, and then above that, the 99 pack of PBR. No big deal, right? The big W sign. So anyway, so all these things, like all this. Actually, the W sign would look dope in my house now I think about it. I have another W in my house, but that one's doper. That one's fucking cooler. You
better talk to the organizer before you move more stuff in.
No, she's like, you need less shit in your office. I go, yeah, probably. Anyways, I am anti-stuff. All right, thank you, Taylor. Everyone, thank you, Taylor.
Hey, Taylor.
Yeah, this is like the 1% of 1% of 1% of 1% of shit that I think is cool. Like
yeah. I was the same way. Yeah, same way. Like my office at the junk removal was like that. I mean, but yeah, the less stuff, the better. But yeah, the organizers, another time I really thought like this organizing thing was a good match with junk removal, right? So again, slow season, I had a lady call me. She wanted to hire, her parents had downsized from like, a big house, small house. And so they had too much stuff and they needed to make space, whatever. She's like, but I don't want to deal with more than one company. I just want a junk removal company and an organizer. And I just want to talk to one person. So, yep, you know me. I'm like, yep, sure. I always say yes. So I hire a professional organizer to work for me, like subcontract.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to work with her because I want to see how we do it. And basically, like, how do professional organizers work? I work 40 hours, 8 hours a day, 5 days in these people's house. It was a lot of stuff. We took out maybe 2 dumpsters of junk removal and the rest was organizing. Jesus. And when I tell you it's the most tedious work ever, especially when you're dealing with like a hoarding situation, which this was, you had to hold up each individual thing and say, sir, ma'am.
Yes, no.
Here's your Post-it notes. Do you need them? And where do you want me to put that? Or can we keep them or throw them away? And they say keep always. And so then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to put them over here with all the 6,000 other Post-it notes. And then, so we did that for a whole week. And I was just getting and you're almost like a counselor too, because, hoarding is a mental health disease.
Yep.
And so I get to like the 6th, like soup pot. And I'm like, do we need 6 soup pots? And the lady says, no shit. She's like, well, that one makes bad soup. And I said, well, it's got to go. And I just got rid of it. Like, I had somebody there, like, get it to the dumpster right now. It's like, you had to get the shit in the dumpster before they changed their mind. And then, like, a week later, guy calls me and he was looking for something. It was kind of valuable. I can't remember. It was like a coin collection. And he said, do you know where my coin collection something is? And I knew where everything in that dude's house was. I was like, 3rd drawer down on the right in your room. Like, that was terrible. I'll never do it. Like, no, never.
And I know some people that love doing that. They're like,
oh yeah, not my
8
thing,
hours
though.
at a time for a year straight. Yep, just
No.
cranking right along. Oh no, I am. That ain't on me, right? And again, that's why there are different people. Now, I will say I love working with professional organizers.
Yes,
A couple reasons. Now, when it's their client, they've already established all the rapport in the world. So now I don't have to, like, what goes has already been spoken for, gone.
Right.
The other reason is when people can afford a professional organizer, they are not bat an eye at what I'm charging. Because they're like, yeah, like you just said, you spend 40 hours, right? Even, I mean, if it's billable at $50 an hour, that's $2,000 to go through fucking Post-it notes. So it's probably closer to 100.
75 or 80.
Yeah, 75 to 100 in our market here in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
As I'm coaching someone, a client on organizing, and I started doing some preliminary research, and it's like between $60 and $100 an hour for organizing services. So 75, 80 is a nice little shot group. So yeah, even at that, if you spend 40 hours at $75 an hour, that's $3,000 to go through Post-it notes, and you're there 8 hours. Like, that's now awful. Me, I'm making a half hour. Like I finally went through my junk drawer like a week and a half ago, and it's not even junk drawer. It was a junk fruit bowl. I had this fruit bowl thing on my island in my last house, and when I moved, I just put the whole thing in a trash bag and moved the entire junk fruit bowl. So now I've had it for like a week and a half on my kitchen table. No fruit or anything in it, because I know if I put fruit in it, I'll be like, oh, a couple pairs of sunglasses to church it up, So now it's like,
do you even eat fruit?
No, I don't eat fruit. I can't even have fruit.
Exactly.
You put the fake fruit in there for fucking white people to comment on your great fake fruit. I right before this, I did my show, my Andy Weins live show, all about remodeling your house and decorating and decor and what you want to show the world. Like and now I'm a less is more, right? And yet I see, like in here, like these are the things I love, right? And at home, it's like pictures of my daughter and pictures of my daughter and I and my family, and shit like that. Or pictures of, like, I live on a farm, so it's like farm pictures. Like I have a cow room. My guest bedroom has 3 pictures of cows because my sister got one. It was the wrong one or something. I don't know. It's like Wayfair or some shit. Like it's an expensive picture of a cow, and got it from her. And then I found 2 more cow pictures at my warehouse in 6 months, and now I have 3 pictures of cows in my guest bedroom and a mirror. Like I'm basically killing it as a bachelor right now.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
I got fucking pillows on my bed. No big deal.
You're like a real adult now.
It's terrible. I got to put them on my chair every morning. What the hell is this all about?
Yeah, that's too much. So junk removal. Anyhow, the professional organizing. I really I know you like to say stick to the one thing, but I know you don't do that either. But
one thing with one deviation. One thing, one deviation. That's what I say. What are you right? Okay. So for you, for example, all right. So you're great at residential junk removal, right? So one deviation of that is commercial junk removal, or one deviation of that is commercial dumpsters, right? Or residential deconstruction, right? Those are all one deviation. When people get multi-deviation, right? That's when they're all of a sudden they're moving. It's like, well, I can move things. Well, moving's like not right. Like the dumpsters, the difference between your junk removal and your dumpster is they're loading it or you're loading it. That's it. Otherwise the process is basically the same.
Yeah, and it was really great because I think our price for a full load of residential junk removal at the end was $709 for a 15-yard, right?
Yep.
That's with our labor. Yep. And so a lot of times people are like, oh, that's too much. And I'm like, oh yeah, no problem then. I'll rent you the dumpster for $4.95. You load it up as long as you have the labor. Save yourself a couple $100, right?
So
Like 200.
$215 difference.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I'm paying someone to fucking load this thing.
90% of the time, they're like, oh, well, you might as well just come and load it then, right? And so normally we could flip the dumpster rental to junk removal, which, it didn't really matter that much to me because, whatever, we're still making the same, we're making money, right? But I like to keep my crew busy. So, I can employ more people and keep people working. Plus, we can sort more. We're not sorting the dumpsters. Like if somebody loads the dumpster, it's going to the dump. I'm not going through their stuff. They didn't sort it correctly. I'm not sorting it. So I do appreciate that we could sort it, recycle, things like that. So yeah, so the biggest thing, for us was just trying to figure out how in this tiny market of 50,000 people we were going to be, viable. Well, it turns out like 8 million people a year visit Ocean City in the summer. So there's a lot more work here than I think what people even realize as far as like construction all winter long, all fall, winter, and spring, really, and getting ready for the season. In the summer is actually kind of our slower season. It's a little bit backwards because that's when the tourists are here. Everybody's rocking and rolling. We'll fix it in the fall kind of thing. And the same with like buying and selling real estate, right? Mm-hmm. Although this summer is oddly busy right now with real estate moving. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, our real estate market has been quiet this year, all year. So we're like 31 minutes into this and we haven't even got to your full origin story. So you moved to Ocean City, Maryland, November of 19.
Yep.
You ran your franchise until when?
So I sold it March 25th, 2024. So just 5 months ago.
Got it.
Yep.
Is everything you hoped and dreamed?
So yeah, yes and no. We did very well with it. So one of the things that I think I did very well and I was very smart about was not growing too fast. I've seen way too many people, as you have, just basically dig themselves into a deep hole by buying multiple territories, buying too many trucks, just too much too fast, right?
Yep.
We started on our kitchen table and grew from there, right? And I was very calculated with how quickly I was adding trucks, adding dumpsters, adding employees, adding a manager. But really my goal from the first day was that the business would run itself and it would be an asset, not a job. And I would sell it. I was very adamant that I was going to own this business and it was not going to own me. I didn't want to just buy a job because I could just go get a job. And that's a lot less stressful than owning a business, right? Mm-hmm. The daily stress of running and owning a junk removal business is not worth it if you don't fully own the business and own your time. So I never gave up our family vacations. I never gave up my time with my family, my daughter, any of that. If I needed to pick her up at school, I was there. You know what I mean? So from day one, I built the business to be something that would run itself. I went through several operations managers. That's the hardest freaking thing, right? I mean, just finding a good manager, this.
You're preaching to the choir because I had our first one was great. Our second one was great. Our third one was good. Right. Yeah. And now I have now arguably the best one I've ever had. And it's taken 8 years of knowing.
It's hard.
And when we went, so background real quick, I'll give the listeners. So I had one franchise territory here. I expanded out to 10 locations across the country. And we would have a district partner. So Carol was our district partner. And then normally we would get to like 2 trucks. And then after the second truck, we needed an operations person because at that point, the district partner is, estimates, networking events, hiring, firing, training, all the things, right? So at least a second operations person. And before you do sales or anything else, I've always said operations. And it's not like some people are like, oh, I have my wife answer the phone. It's like, no, it's so much more than that.
So much. Yeah. And that was a big thing in Madison, if you remember, because we started out with just me. And then like Isaac came down and helped, like here in for a month or whatever, and then you'd come down, and then like we would just like. Remember, you and I did that first job. We removed that lady's chair. Do you remember that? The realtor?
Yeah.
After networking. And then Isaac and I got this freaking heavy ass sofa. It was a recliner, electric recliner sofa that we hand carried. Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah.
But we very quickly hired an ops person. And I think after that, you were like, we're not opening any more territories without 2 people. Because it was very hard to do, right?
Yeah.
With just doing the sales and then the networking and all that. So definitely hiring an operations manager, very hard to do because it's somebody you need to be able to trust with your business, right?
Yeah.
I would say I never really got like a fully good operations man. Actually, that's not true. I got one, and then he wanted to go be a police officer, which was awesome. You know, he got into the academy to go be a Worcester County sheriff. I had another guy. Actually, he was pretty good. He had just gotten out of the Navy, but then he went full-time real estate. So that was kind of the hard thing, especially our labor market around here is not good either. Hiring a manager so that I could be there, be in and out of the office though for the networking and the sales and just doing what I want to do was key. But also when you go to sell a business, the number one question people ask you is it an absentee owned business? That's all they want.
Great. They want an absentee-owned business because if it's owner-centric, it's not like they're buying your business to hire you as their employee. You're fucking, Yep. No, even with me,
so
I told our team we have 5 years. We have 5 years for us to put it. I want to be in a position with Camo Crew, wherein I can, if I want to be an absentee owner in 5 years. And I was when Isaac and I first started our franchise. We're like, all right, our goal is to be done in 5 years of being in the business, right? We're going to still own it and whatever. But I saw so many businesses growing up, my dad's friends and colleagues, because I grew up with entrepreneurs. Like, I don't know a lot of people that had jobs. Like my uncle was a dentist, his own a dental practice. I had another uncle who was a lawyer. He owned his own law firm, right? It's like small group, it's not like, but it's like, that's what I grew up with. Like, that's what I kind of knew. I looked at people with jobs like, ooh, look at you with your fancy job, right? Like most people I knew just like didn't have jobs. Like my dad and the people that my parents associated with, and so for me, it was like, okay, I watch all these businesses, but they were always capped out because they were the business. Like my uncle, who was a lawyer, it was him, a paralegal, and a secretary. Like if he goes on vacation for a week, they don't make any money. My uncle, who was a dentist, it's like he was the orthodontist. He jumped between the 2 offices, and there was a lady that cleaned teeth and the 2 or 3 ladies that like prepped your teeth in your face, right? And like, if you're in emergency surgery and he was on African safari, you're going somewhere else. So I knew from day one with junk removal, we have to be a business that is sustainable with Isaac and I not here.
Right. 100%. That's the same with my husband's business. We're going on vacation next week. That's a week of lost revenue. He is the business, right? So
where are you guys going?
Oh, we're going to Pennsylvania to visit my family, and then we're going to Toronto just for fun.
Oh, I've never been.
I haven't either. That's why we're going.
International travelers, no big deal.
Exactly. So we got our new fancy passports. I haven't gone I'm an international traveler. Like I used to be. Haven't been international since 2014. Really hurts my soul. So I was we're going somewhere that needs a passport this summer.
I mean, technically, I know. I went to the Caribbean the Caribbean this winter. So yeah, technically, yes.
Although, we went on a cruise. It's been a long time, and we thought we would need our passports. And they told us to bring them, but we didn't even need them, so they didn't even count.
Yeah, cruises don't count because you're not in the you stop at a port of touristy crap and you drink overpriced sugary drinks and get back on board.
So anyhow, we're going to Canada just to check it out. Paul's Canadian. He's actually a dual citizen.
I did not know this about Mr. Paul. Let me
Vaillancourt, French Canadian Vaillancourt. Come on.
I've known you 8 years, and I asked you before the show how to pronounce your last name because I still have your maiden or whatever, your other married name, whatever it is, in my phone. I didn't know what it is. Right. I didn't care. I'm gonna brag on your husband real quick. I don't get to do this too often in the show because I don't know people this well. However, I was at your house when we were first starting the business.
Yeah.
I think I slept in your basement for that week or whatever. I know Isaac did. Like this again, frugal as shit.
In our basement.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, yeah, it was fucking. I remember it was cold and it was dark. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Anyhow, we were out, whether it was banging jobs or networking events late, whatever. We got home like late-ish. It was dark, like 5, 6 o'clock. And Paul went to make us dinner. I was like, all right. I'm like, oh, we're gonna have dinner in like 10, 15 minutes, right? Like an hour and a half later, this guy's fucking the butter over the steak and the rosemary and the what have yous, and then he cuts the steak perfect medium rare. I was so fucking hungry, right? I would eat dog at that time. I didn't give a shit. And I was being so respectful. Not your dog. And yet, like, the steak was fucking, the man can cook. He needed to be a chef.
Yeah, he can. He's probably cooking dinner right now. So that's true. He might even be watching. I don't know if he's watching us or not.
That's not fucking weird or anything.
What, that he's cooking dinner?
No. Watch him from the other room.
Yeah, I mean, he might be. I don't know. But anyhow, so we build the business, from day one, like I wanted to sell it, right? I knew that I didn't want to do junk removal forever. But it was definitely a means to, build a business and get to where I wanted to be geographically. So I started trying to sell the business. It takes a long time to sell a business. Holy shit. It's a process. About a year.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to know, like, is it an absentee business owner? You get tons of tire kickers, and then people just dig. I mean, you got to have your shit in order. Like, they're in your business, right? I did end up, so I started kind of halfway trying to sell it on my own, just through a listing up on Biz Buy Sell and whatnot. I don't recommend that. It's too many people that you're dealing with that are just like basically busybodies. It's like having an open house at your house, right?
Yep.
All the neighbors are coming. So I hired a business salesperson through Transworld. Cost, I felt like a lot, 12% of your price. But in the end, they do a lot of work. They do all the work for you. They do all the advertising. They vet and screen all the potential buyers. So definitely worth it. And, even from I think I started talking to the guy who finally closed on March 25th in October. I'll say
6 months.
So, it takes a while. But totally worth it, I think.
What was that transition period like? Did he come work with you? Did you stick around for a couple of weeks?
So we had in the contract that I would train him for 2 weeks. He, so he didn't want to move the closing date. So of course the timing was bad. I can't remember. So we closed March 25th. I had to go to a military training. I had Army duty for a week. And so I was there for a week with him. And then I had to go to Army training. And I think I came back or something like that. But he felt like he already knew everything. And so that was fine by me, right?
Say less. Yeah, have you caught up with him? How's he doing now?
So I'm not sure. I've talked to some of his employees. They seem to be doing fine. It's one of those things that once you're done with it, you just really want to be done with it.
Yeah.
It's I'm just done, and I'm just decompressing. It's been, almost 5 months. And I've just really been, I've done in the last 5 months, I think 8 weeks of military duty. I got a new fancy job. I'm the commander for the OCS program in the state of Delaware. So that caused a whole bunch of additional training to become necessary. Yeah. So I had to go to a bunch of training for that. And then in addition to that, actually I was out at Fort McCoy for 2 weeks, so I can get promoted. I had to go to my training.
You're a major now?
I'm a major now. So I have to go to my next level training for lieutenant colonel. So I've been in a lot of Army training and I haven't really, checked in too much. I've like I said, I've caught up with some of the employees and whatnot, and they seem to be doing fine. I see them running around town. The office is less than a mile, or maybe a mile from my house. So I see them, but I'm sure they're fine.
Are you working now, or Army's your thing? You're just Army in it and hanging out?
So I committed to taking the summer off. I didn't send Izzy to any camps a little bit of camps, but mostly spending time with her. And, I came in about an hour before this show off the beach. So Did some
No,
did some yoga this morning.
no shame in that. How old is Izzy now?
12. She's going to
12?
7th grade.
That's what I thought. I knew she was two, so my daughter's 10.
Yeah. So I'm
Okay,
just
so
hanging
you're-
out for now, but
so you're
I
post
might
junk
get back
removal
into
life.
it. Yeah.
You might get back into junk removal?
No.
Oh.
I might get back into doing something. Probably mostly helping Paul build his business. I'd like to
Yeah.
see that become something that, again, runs itself, right? Because Paul is the business right now.
Mhm.
So I'd like to see that kind of get to where, when we go on vacation, we aren't necessarily just losing that revenue for a week. So,
All right.
but yeah, it's a lot of decompression after running a junk removal business, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for the better part of 6 years, you were in some capacity running a business. I mean, really said,
Yeah.
I mean, we started, I mean, you started January of 18.
January
so
of 18.
Yeah,
it's
so it's really
almost 7 years.
Yeah, six plus years of doing the thing. So what are some of your top takeaways, right? Things you right. So we have a lot of people also real quick. What happened to your finger is a question. I played volleyball and got old, and then I hurt it in February. I didn't do shit about it. Finally, I got an X-ray a month ago, and I probably broke it back in February. So I can move it. Like this is we are making progress. I can move my hand, and the finger kind of moves. Look at that, huh? We're fucking moving. It don't bend.
So the biggest thing that I'm
fancy.
starting to talk about is not growing too fast.
Yep.
Know your limits. I mean, for me, I took out 0 business loan. Like I started on, I was shoestring budget. I think shoestring budget's the way to go. You see people that want to get fancy and do all kinds of stuff and just go in way over their heads, with a big loan from day one. I didn't take out a loan. We started with $30,000 out of my own bank account, and that was that. Over the 5 years, I took out 1 loan to buy my dumpsters, and I took the loan out from myself, from my TSP. Thank you, Army. So I paid back myself, got my own interest back. So if those of you don't know, the TSP is the Army's 401k. You can do that with your personal 401k too. I think if you have the money in your 401k, borrow from yourself, pay yourself back. But you also have to be very confident that you know what the hell you're doing, because that's your freaking money, right?
Yeah.
If you go bankrupt, you lost a good part of your retirement, right? That's your money.
Yeah. If you go bankrupt with the bank's money, that's fine. That's their money.
Right. Yeah. So I say run it on a shoestring budget. Don't fall into like all the sales traps. I don't know how many times a day somebody's gonna call you and try to sell you some shit you don't need. Like you really don't need it. That was like always my thing. Like I don't need it. 90% of the time I didn't need it. Know what you're, really have confidence. People that are trying to run a business and work a full-time job, I don't think it's going to work. I think that if you're going to run a business, you got to run the business, you have to own it, and you have to commit to it, right? And that's kind of what we did. It was like, people are like, oh, I don't know how, we know a lot of JTOG people that have failed, right? A lot of JTOGs.
87%, I think, is the number.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, and they'll ask me, they're like, well, how do you do it? How did you not fail? And I was like, failure was not an option for me. Like we sold 2 houses, moved across the country, and this was my job.
Yeah. And 3 months later, we had a pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had a pandemic. I needed to pay myself very quickly. I think within 10 months, I was paying myself. So I needed to pay myself very quickly. Failure wasn't an option. I had to pay bills. Between Paul and I, it's like we both had these new businesses that we couldn't fail at. And I don't know if it's the military mindset or whatever, but it's just, I had to do the thing, right? And there wasn't a choice. There wasn't an option. Quitting wasn't an option. There were days I wanted to quit. I will 100% say there were days I came home and told Paul, I fucking quit.
You called me those fucking days. Like,
yeah, I quit.
As up and down as our relationship has been, there's been a handful of times through the years where it's like, hey, Andy, I need to talk to somebody that understands the stupid I dealt with today.
The stupid, because it's like it just gets so out of hand, and it's just,
I don't.
Your employees are going to do stupid shit. your truck's going to break down, and your customer is going to say that you broke something all in the same day. It's all going to fucking happen, right?
Fucking
yeah,
mermaids.
The mermaids. And we had, I mean, we could go on for days for stories, right? Employees falling through ceilings, all of it. It all happens, right? And there were definitely days it's like I wanted to quit, definitely put my blood, sweat, and tears into the whole thing for 5 years. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad it's over. And, I'd really love to see other people kind of be able to do that. To me, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, it's no big deal. It's just a thing that I did. But everybody's like, nobody does that. Nobody builds this business and sells it that quickly. And I made a profit. I don't think we had any years that we were not make profit. We were always profitable from day one. We were profitable. But I mean, so what also I tell people all the time, and I know your head might swell and you're not going to fit on the screen, but if I hadn't had your coaching, right, for 2 years, how the fuck would I have known how to run this business? Right? I mean, the franchise didn't teach me how to run this business. I'll be real, right? So I will say that about that.
I know we're being very politically correct with respect to your non-disparage agreement. I don't have a non-disparage shit. Let the record show. I'm being a fucking gentleman over here.
Right. But I mean, like, I had the benefit of, yes, Andy Weins is sleeping in my basement and training me. And I could call you and every day.
Which you did.
Right. And so other people would call me and they're like, well, how did you learn how to do this? And I'm like, well, I had Andy Weins. So then they probably called you. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's like, I didn't learn this business by myself, and I didn't just like figure it out. I probably would have, but we wasted a lot of money in those first couple of years, right? Like figuring it out.
Yeah, I didn't know the fuck I was doing. I was like, oh yeah, I was gonna run this in the territory. Yeah, osmosis. She's just gonna know how to fucking take a hot tub out of a deck. I remember that time I came out to Madison and we were doing a networking event. I came out to do a networking event, and it was like, I'm gonna be the CEO guy and just like drive around to the job sites and be like, hey guys, how are you doing? Good job. I'll buy you lunch. Right. And we get in this hot tub and it was you, me, and like 4 of your jabronis. And I'm like, how do you motherfuckers not know how to cut up a hot tub and do this? And I was like,
that's not common knowledge. No,
I grew up that way. I know exactly. I'm like,
it's not common knowledge.
I'm like, give me the recip saw. And they're like, what's a recip saw? And I'm like, oh my God, just give me. I remember that. I basically banged out. It was a hot tub in a deck, which is again like worst case scenario because you got to cut it, right? And we couldn't fuck the deck up because of course I got to keep the deck. I'm like, guys, you're gonna replace the deck boards. Let me just fuck this all up. No, couldn't do that. I remember it was raining because of course it had to be raining, right?
And it's always raining, right?
It's always had to be raining. Yeah, we don't have it ain't clear blue, 72 degrees, right?
It has to be cold or snowing. Oh my gosh!
And I remember, and then I think we had a networking event, and then we're getting a lunch with somebody, and then another networking event. I'm like, Andy, just whatever you do, don't get fucking dirty. And then I sat there, and I'm just telling people what to do. Remember, someone handed me a corded recip saw. I'm like, go to my fucking truck, get the corded recip saw, get and I just started banging it out. And I remember, like, afterwards, I was so happy it was done. I was like, all right, you guys, like, fuck off. Just like, I will admit here on August 18th, what am I doing here? August, I know, I saw an 8. It's like my brain wasn't braining. August 12th, 2024, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I am not a great leader. Like, leading troops, not my thing. I've recently studied Sigma males, which is fucking interesting. And I'm a Sigma male, like, through and through. It's like, I love working independently. I'm an introvert. I don't give a shit about people. Like, I crave time with people. And then as soon as I'm done with them, I'm like, I'm the fuck out of here. Right? I have no desire to lead people. I don't give a shit about social structures, a hierarchy. Like, I'm going to do my fucking thing and leave. And that's one of the reasons why I failed when I was overseeing. I mean, we had 200 employees almost at one point across all the businesses that I was overseeing or part of. Like, dang. Like, give me the fucking recip saw and I'll bang it out and you can watch if you're lucky. Right? And then I'm going to go off to the next project. And a lot of things that I learned that you learn because I was 18 months ahead of you. That's it. Like, I had a lifetime. I had a lifetime of watching my dad. Hell, this weekend, my dad and I tore apart the inside of a chicken coop. and then we were they tore it apart earlier, full transparency. And then I helped rebuild it with them this weekend. And my dad and my brother's 6 years my junior, he has much more technical skills and abilities in engineering and understanding. And, we're putting a micro lam in, structural. And it's like, we got to twist, we got to turn, we got to lift. I'm like, put me on the dummy end of the fucking piece of lumber, right? I'm a dummy end of the lumber guy, And
Right.
So I grew up, you said military. I grew up with my dad where it's like, you got a fucking truck stuck in the field. We don't eat until the truck gets out. It's like, we got the truck stuck. And then what happened? Oh, then we got the tractor stuck. It's like, I guess get a bigger tractor, right? It's like, that's it, or hunting. I remember years I've shot deer late in the night or late in the afternoon, and we're trailing them late at night. It's like, no, we're not, like, I don't care how far back that deer is. We're getting the deer and we're dragging it out. I don't care how hot and nasty and sweaty and tired I am. We're dragging the deer out. So same with the military. It's like, you're not like, it's been 12 hours. I'm going home now. It's like, nope, you're knee deep in fucking Iraq. It's right. So that's the entrepreneurial spirit. That's the thing that's unteachable, right? And you had that, and you had a natural marketing.
I grew up in it. My dad owned a bike shop, and my grandmother owned a pizza shop. And actually, I had my first business license. Fun fact: when I was 12.
Hawking hot dogs. What are you doing?
I beat you. I was selling. Yeah, I was selling chips and soda. So I lived across the street from a lake with a little beach. And so my sister and I got a little business license. My dad tricked out this little red wagon for us. Had like a little chip clip thing on it. I just told my daughter this story the other day. She's like, how'd you get money for that? I was like, I took out a business loan. She's like, from who? Your dad? I said, yeah, my dad.
Yeah, $20 get you started in inventory. Yeah.
Yep. So anyhow, got a business license when I was 12. I've always been kind of a hustler, push my lawnmower around the neighborhood, asked to mow lawns. Never really good at babysitting. Wasn't my thing. But so it was no big deal for me to, like, I don't know. I'm a risk taker too. Like it is what it is. So
well, that's what it takes.
You have to be willing to do that.
Yeah. And for the people that have failed in junk removal or are currently failing, it's like, figure it the fuck out. And I've been really, really high in this business. I've been really, really low in this business. We had a shit month last month. We did, right? Here I am. I got a fucking podcast. I tell the world how great this industry is. And we had a shit month last month. And it's like, okay, well, what did we learn from it? And what are we doing? Now, August, we're rocking and rolling. So all the things that went wrong in July, they're going well in August, right? We've been struggling with employees. Now we got two really good hires. And guess what? They got buddies. So it's like, now we're on track for that again. So that's the thing. It's like, you gotta thrive in those ups and downs. The other thing that you said that was interesting is, and this is where a lot of junk removal companies fail. And that's why this guy that hit me up this morning, I owe him a text message back. He's like, I'm looking for advice. And I was like, well, what's the question? And he goes, well, I don't really have a question. Well, I really can't give advice, right? So one thing you said was, I had a very clear thing. Within 5 years, we are not going to be an owner-centric business. Right. And then, okay, well, there it is. That's the thing. What's the thing? What's the goal? What's the end state? Right. Happy Junk Removal. I do not recall his name. Fucking good dude. I had him on a couple months ago. And his thing was like, I want to run 2 trucks. Like, his son's company is outpacing him. It's like, well, his son's, 25 years his junior and has different aspirations. So his thing is keep my cogs really, really low and run my 2 trucks in my community. Good. Like, that's his thing. I don't give a shit what your North Star is. So for the guys that are out there, they're like, I'm just running a junk removal company. It's like, well, what does that mean to you? Right? Like, what's the goal? So I'll throw it out there. AJ's removal service, A&J's removal service, that they've been watching us for a while here. 9 minutes late. He's been on the most of the show, right? Looking for this one. Like, my challenge to you, Eddie, everybody else that's listening live, right? What's your North Star? Right? Why are you doing what you're doing? What's the end state? Like, pick something. Hey, I want to make this many dollars. Hey, I want to take this many vacations, right? You said from day one, hey, we're not compromising our vacation, and I got to pay myself within a reasonable amount of time. All right, 12 months. Cool. You got it done in 10. All right.
Yeah,
because you're running a junk removal company to run it. Guess what? You're going to run one.
Yeah.
And eventually that company's going to be running you because you're not deciding what it looks like.
I think there's a quote from a book, maybe the E-Myth or something. They always say, start with the end in mind. And then fill in the gap. Who says that?
Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
There you go.
Begin with the end state in mind. So Stephen Covey,
exactly.
7 Habits, one of the first books I ever read on self-development. Love that book. I remember I read the book, and we had to do a book report, and we had to pick our top 2 habits. I read the book, like, let's say the presentation was Wednesday. I read the book Tuesday night, and I wrote my paper Wednesday at 3:00, 4:00, and the presentation's at 6. And I remember I wrote the presentation real half-assed. The thing is, I picked 2, right, which was begin with the end state in mind and sharpen the saw. I offhand, I can't tell you what the other 5 habits are. And I can tell you those were the 2 I picked out of there because they resonated with me. And now in retrospect, they are the 2 that I focus on the absolute the most, right? Sharpen the saw. I learned things last week from the podcast that I implemented in my business. I learned things 2 weeks ago from Barry that I'm putting into my business, right? Why? Because this is, I can say unequivocally 1 hour every single week, I am sharpening the saw as a business owner. I am sitting here having a business conversation on my business to be better in this industry. And so I'm continually sharpening the saw, and I'm beginning with the end state in mind, right? What is the goal? My goal is to impact the junk removal industry in a positive way, wherein more and more people are sorting material, storing it, and shipping it, keeping it out of the landfill, right? Like, you grew up with that because it was under my model. Most junk removal companies don't do that or know that. And so when I can pass that information on, then people are more apt. It's not a desire gap, it's a knowledge gap. So my goal is to close the gap.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Anyways, now I'm all fired up. It's been an hour. Carol, let's get to the big finish. What has been your top takeaway from today's very entertaining show?
Oh my goodness. Top takeaway is just, set your goals and know what you want in this business, and you can definitely be successful. People like to say that the junk removal business is slow or it's going, whatever. It's the junk's always going to be there.
Yep.
Just have your goals and know what you want.
Yeah, as long as we have capitalism, we'll have junk. My top takeaway is for you and I, where we've had a storied past over 7 years, right? And what resonates with me is this too shall pass, right? We've had good times, we've had bad times, right? This too shall pass. And as business owners, often, to your point, right, we get stuck in the day-to-day and forget why we got into this shit in the first place, right? And why you get in it is not nearly as important as why are you still in.
Yeah.
And so for everybody, right, when it's humming and rocking and rolling and things are kicking ass, remember, this too shall pass. And when it's a struggle, right, I remember you reached out to me maybe, I don't know, 3 years ago. We hadn't talked in like a year. And you're like, hey, I need some advice. I don't even know if you'll pick up the phone. Please call. And like, I called him. I was like, hey, what's going on? Right. And we picked up like we had never missed a beat. Right. It's like, God, whatever shit. Like, I already forgot why we were mad at each other kind of thing. It's like, hey, right, this too shall pass. Whatever it was, like, here's another entrepreneur in need. And I'm so glad a couple weeks ago when you reached out to me, it was like, hey, I'll be on the podcast. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Right. Because there's some nugget. Right. I've never sold a junk removal company like you did. So it's like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. Owner centric. Got an operations person. Takes 6 months. Like, I've learned things along the way, and I know our listeners have learned things, and that's the most important thing. Right. So this too shall pass. Whatever you're going through in life, good, bad, or indifferent, positive, negative, however spin you want to put on it, know that your state today is only temporary. With that, Carol, any last words for our audience?
No, I mean, just, like you said, I'd like to see other junk removal professionals succeed and reach their goals. And I'd love to, if I could put out any more words of advice on how to sell a business, I'd have to really think more on it, because it's one of those things that you do it and then it's over and you're glad it's over when it's over. But it took me a while to even really want to talk about it. So I know we've been talking about it for a while, and you're asking me to be on the show. And so here I am.
Here we are.
Thanks for having me.
Now we go, right? It's all part of the decompression.
Exactly.
There you go. All right. Well, on behalf of Carol, our guest, Taylor, our producer, I'm Andy Weins, and this has been another riveting, amazing week of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. Coming up next week, I didn't even pull up my notes, so we'll use a little filibuster here. Get Jobber. Here we go. I haven't shout out a Jobber. I got a Jobber. Jobber. I love me some Jobber. Filibuster. Also,
we
Carol,
use Jobber.
You use Jobber.
Paul's business. We do.
Correct. You used something else and you hated it.
Oh, so we use Vonago. I'm not going to say I
it.
hated it. I didn't hate Vonago. I hated Workies.
Oh,
I
that's
hated
what it was.
House Call Pro. I hated dumpster rental systems. I tried them all. I'll tell you
There we
that.
go. Okay, see, there you go. I knew there was one you despised because you're like,
A dumpster rental systems. Hated it.
that was a bad
There was
one.
another one. I can't remember the name of it. It was like kind of a new one, and I kind of liked it, but they weren't fully developed yet. But
Got
yeah.
All right. Next week coming up, we have Ronnie from Spearcrest Digital, and we're going to be talking marketing. A lot of times our marketing episodes are some of our best episodes because we all need the phone to ring. So coming up next week, Ronnie with Spearcrest Digital, and we'll be talking marketing, I imagine, digital marketing, click, all that good fun stuff. So I already said who we're on behalf of. Jobber, all the good things. I'm Andy Weins. She's Carol Taylor. Boom, done. We will see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Tap subscribe or follow to get the latest episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a review and tell a friend to listen. To learn more, visit trashtalkbusinesspodcast.com. Bye now.